Hi, I'm Oliver Lundy. I make automotive photography videos, and in this video I'm giving you 7 things that I wish I knew when I started automotive photography. Okay, so tip number 1, guys, sounds like a real basic one, but I can't tell you how many times this has saved me, is buy more memory cards than you think you need. It doesn't have to be expensive ones, just buy cheap, low capacity ones and stick one in your wallet, one in your glove box, one in your camera bag, one in your camera, and one somewhere else, so that no matter where you are, if you forget your memory card, it's still plugged into your PC at home from your last shoot, you've always got a spare on you. There is nothing worse than turning up to a photo shoot and going, oh crap, got no memory cards, and you've got to frantically try and find the nearest shop that sells one, or you've got to try and borrow one. It's just a nightmare. It doesn't look professional, and it's such an easy thing to avoid. Just buy spares and stash them everywhere. No, seriously, stop, go onto Amazon, buy some cheap memory cards and go do it now. You'll thank me later. Okay guys, tip number 2 is always have a plan. And I don't necessarily mean a really rigid plan, I just mean have an idea of the types of shot that you're going for, potentially even make a list of all the types of shot you want to get. And having a shot list can really help you when you're out on the shoot and you're dealing with time pressure, you've got the car to deal with, you've got the owner of the car who's going to be helping you out, and working through all of these things can be distracting and can effectively make you forget types of shot that you would normally go for. So after a while, you'll have a whole bunch of go-to stuff, and you'll know, you won't have to look at a list, you'll just know because you've done it so many times. But when you first start out, it's good to make a shot list and go through it, or at least have it in your back pocket so that you can always go back to it and check it once you think you're done, to make sure you've got everything. Or if you start to feel lost during the shoot, you can refer to it and it will help you to make sure that the shoot goes as planned. Having a plan can also include things like making sure you know how long it's going to take you to get to your location, etc, etc. Just being organized and making sure that you've got everything planned out. You might have to change your plan on the fly, but it's just good to have one to start with. Point number 2 is have a plan. Point number 3 is have a backup plan. Make sure that you've got a secondary location or a third location that you can use if for whatever reason you get to the spot you were planning on shooting at and the lighting's crap, or security kicks you out when they didn't last time, or it's not even open. Because the amount of times that you will make a plan that'll be really good, but something's going to go wrong, and the more backups you've got, or the more second options you've got, the better. And that can be with your gear, it can be with memory cards, it can be with cameras, it can be with locations. There's all sorts of things that you can do, and the more you can build in to your backups, the less likely it is that something's going to happen that's going to stop your shoot, and you're going to have to rebook it and start again from scratch, and that's awful. You want to maximize your shooting time when you can, so have a backup plan. Okay guys, tip number 4, and this is the last of the kind of prep tips. So if you're planning out your shoots and you've got backups, the last thing is to make sure that the night before your shoot, or the morning of the shoot if it's an evening shoot, is check all your gear. Make sure that everything's packed, make sure everything's charged up, make sure your memory cards are already formatted, so that when you get to your shoot, you know not only is everything going to be working and everything's going to be ready, but you're not missing some fundamentally vital bit of gear like a memory card, which you talked about earlier, or a lens or a polarizing filter, or whatever it is that you need for that particular shoot. Make sure that it's in your bag before you walk out the door. There's nothing worse than grabbing your bag, thinking everything's in there, going to the shoot, getting there, finding out all your batteries are dead and you've not got a memory card and you're missing the lens that you want. It doesn't matter, it's awful. So just make sure, plan the night before, make sure everything's in your bag and ready to go. Okay, tip number 5, guys, is less is more. And what I mean by this is, as a beginner, I had a tendency to frantically shoot as much as I could, just shooting everything, changing angles all the time, and just frantically trying to get everything. And it was because I was worried that I wouldn't get those banger shots that I wanted, so I just kind of overshot everything and ended up with hundreds of photos at the end of every shoot that were just complete garbage and I wouldn't use them anyway. So when I say less is more, slow down, take your time, make sure that everything in your photo is what you want it to be, make sure that the angle of the car is right, make sure that the lighting's as good as it could possibly be, make sure that you've got your polarizer set to the right position, and if you're going to be using a tripod, make sure that your tripod position is optimal for that shot, and then think it all through, then take your shot, and then move on to the next shot, knowing that you've got a really good shot in the bag. And if you end up with 10 to 15 really strong images, that's better than 50 to 100 images where they're either going to be average or you're going to end up culling a lot of them anyway. Okay, tip number 6 is shoot for the edit. Now what I mean by that is that sometimes there are things that you can't do on the day because of limitations that you have with lighting or with your gear or anything else. And there's quite a lot of tricks that you can do that in post will make your images better, but you've got to think about it when you're shooting so that you can get the shots that will then allow you to make those decisions in the edit. So examples of this might be fake reflection shots. I've got a whole video on that, but in order to do that, you have to shoot from quite low angles and make sure that the bottom of the car is level. Using things like Brennheisers to give you a wider angle of view with a shallow depth of field. Again, you've got to shoot multiple shots to make that happen. Even simple things like shooting multiple shots at the same setup with a polarizer in a different position means that you can then blend exposures together in post to make a better overall shot. But you've got to be thinking about that when you're actually on your shoot in order to be able to do this in the edit. So think about the kinds of shots that you might be looking at, thinking of doing in the edits, and then make sure that you get those when you're actually on the shoot. So yeah, think about the edit when you're actually on your shoot, and also include it in your shot list and in your planning phase. Okay, so tip number 7, guys, is a general photography tip that you can apply to automotive photography. Try and find a photo buddy. And by that, what I mean is someone who can go out with you on shoots, who likes taking photographs, hopefully as much as you are, and ideally someone who's at a similar level to you in terms of skill and experience. Because when you do that, not only is it much more fun, it's also a resource that you can help each other with. So you can talk to each other about ideas. You'll both see shoots differently and you'll be able to find different angles that you wouldn't have been able to capture with just you. Ideally, if you've got the same camera system as well, you can help each other out with borrowing of lenses and gear, and if you end up having a problem, you can help each other out, which is part of the previous tips about having backups. If you've got a friend who can help you out who's on the shoot as well, all the better. But also, if you build up more than one and you can create a little group of local photographers, then not only can you share things like location tips and general tips and everything like that, you've got more and more people that you can rely on, and they will hopefully help you and you can help them. And it just, when you build up a community, it really helps. I really wish I'd done this sooner. I did a lot of my early stuff completely on my own, and sometimes I felt, like I didn't really know what I was doing wrong, and it was actually something really simple that had someone else been there, they could have said, oh yes, it's this, stop being an idiot, and I would be like, oh yeah, that's great. So the value of having someone else with you is really high, and the earlier you can try and make those friends and build your community, the better. Okay guys, that's it for this video. I hope you found some of those tips useful. If you did, then do let me know in the comments. And if you got something from this video, then please do drop me a like and consider subscribing. It really does help smaller YouTube channels when people engage, and I'd love to hear from you. I do try and reply to every comment. If you've got any ideas of future videos you'd like me to do, then let me know those as well. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.